About 7 months ago now, I released a video that was talking about how I personally would nerf all of the tanks in Overwatch. And I feel like now that there's been a lot of changes recently in Overwatch, perks have been added, Season 9 changes have really been solidified as a true part of the game by this point. Balance patches galore, different unique things have been happening in the Overwatch scene, and I feel like now is the perfect time to release a second part to this video. And no, I'm not going to be looking at the tanks again.
You're not affiliated with me!
It's also not going to be the DPS, for this time I'm looking at support. Unlike that video as well, this is not going to be focusing on, oh, we're going to nerf them, but try to find more ways to make the character more interesting and have higher counterplay. No.
They've had it too good for too long.
I'm killing everybody. Every support is getting nerfed today, with one exception. Everybody is getting a hit to something. It's just going to be what is hit. The first thing that I want to look at is a rework to the support role passive. I think that the current one is fine, it's okay, but I feel like it's a bit redundant given the fact that the regen passive will trigger anyways 2.5 seconds after when supports get it. So I'm going to take a bit of inspiration from Team Fortress 2 here. Rather than the health regen passive everybody gets triggering sooner, any ally who has not taken damage within 3 seconds gets increased healing dealt to them by 40 whole percent. This might sound like a lot, but realistically this is going to give me some room and leeway to cut down on the sustained watch hell that we've been thrust into recently, while at the same time making it so that then people who are out of the fight aren't just going to struggle to ever go back in. This should allow the game to be focused more on engaging and less on sustaining an engage. Rather than going first and just sitting there while you take boundless damage, you are going to want to go first, get out, and go back in. It'll be more of an ebb and flow rather than a one and done engage. And now this should be obvious if I'm nerfing sustain across the board for these characters and how much healing output they have. I'm also going to nerf the DPS passive a little bit. I know I said this isn't going to be focused on that, but it's a necessary change. 25 to 20% effectiveness against non-tank heroes for the DPS passive. Mid-fight sustain should be a little bit weak, but I think that 25% is a bit too much with the sustain nerfs I'm going to be putting in, but it's going to be unchanged for tanks. Tanks, if they go too far, they will still have that 12.5% healing reduction affected by them, and they'll struggle to really sustain through anything. The first here to talk about is Ana, and you're gonna notice a very common theme here. I tried to really cut these down. It was about 4 pages, maybe 5 pages worth of balance changes that I overall had for the tanks. This is 8. There's a lot of individual hero changes, a lot more than I had for the tanks. I'm dropping that Bionade cooldown back down to even lower than it was before. In 5v5, it'll be 11 seconds, 6v6, all the way down to 9. This might sound ridiculous, and it kind of is, so 10 seconds for 6v6 is acceptable here. But we're going to be doing a few other changes. The healing modification is going to go down from 50 to 40% in specifically 6v6. In 5v5, using a Bionade on your tank is a huge commitment compared to 6v6, where Bionades hitting multiple players is going to be a lot more common, and getting a teammate and an enemy with one nade is a reasonable situation to be put in. So we're going to just drop how much sustain Ana has with those, as well as this will make a Ana break backline a lot more manageable to deal with. That way then they can't just pocket each other and have infinite sustain for one another. At the very least in 6v6. In 5v5, it'll still be very feasible for an Ana break to survive a full-on engage. The reason I didn't implement this to 5v5 specifically is because I just think it's a bigger commitment to use Bionade, and the longer cooldown for specifically 5v5 I think warrants the full 50%. And one more small boost for Ana's nade, because I'll be straight up, almost all these changes for Ana are centralized around nade. It's now visible through walls. So if you try to chuck a nade from spawn all the way to the front line, you'll now see how close you are to your teammates with the Bionade. Did it just completely whiff and hit a roof somewhere? Did it go way too far? Not far enough? Now you'll be able to actually tell without third-party tools necessary. Now for a quick break from Bionade, we're going to take a look at our primary fire and secondary fire. The ammo is going from 15 to 12, and the damage and healing is going from 75 to 70. These specific changes are targeted at double flex support, which has been very prevalent at a high level recently, and I think a little bit too much, which we're going to see more how I'm going to target that specific composition later. but I think that main support is struggling a little bit, and Ana is a pretty key reason why. Her ability to threaten 3 taps on 225 HP targets, even though she should never really get those 3 taps, is a factor. And the amount of ammo she has means that she can be very willy-nilly with her ammo management, and it really takes away a skill set that I think is pretty important to play around. If you've seen my Season 11 bounce wish list, this specific pair of changes might sound familiar to you. These are some thoughts that I've had for a long time, and I think that it is absolutely fair to go with. Now the big changes to Bionade, though, to go right back into it. The healing and damage for regular Bionade is going from 75 to 60, and the Biotic Bounce is going from 50 to 40. Biotic Bounce allows Bionade to heal 150 HP to the Ana player, assuming, good balances. But if you're in a room, for example, a tight room, that becomes much easier to do. It also allows for up to 125 damage, half the health of a standard squishy, and more than that against a 225 HP target. These nerfs will prevent anti from being too prevalent consistently, while giving me that leeway to buff the cooldown back up to a simple 11 seconds and 9 for 66. I was thinking about touching Groggy and Shrike, but I think that those two have their own specific niches. Shrike might still be a little bit too strong, but I'm okay with it for the most part. On the other side of things, Groggy seems very good, but it's fairly niche, and I like the niche it currently occupies. I don't really want to touch it. This is another character that I'm very passionate on my opinions on, and that's Baptiste. Really, this is probably the top 2, maybe 3 supports that I am passionate on my opinions on. Of all the characters, Baptiste feels almost the most unfair, but absolutely eviscerated by the meta we're currently in. So I'm going to try to target him with some buffs and nerfs to fit him closer into a brawlier style of composition, without making him over-centralizing in that specific situation. The first thing I'm going to do is drop his damage from 25 to 24, because I think that is a pretty important damage breakpoint, and unlike Soldier, that breakpoint is still important in the post-Season 9 changes, where we have the 250 HP targets. Specifically, Ant Matrix can still let you headshot one-shot Reaper with all 3 bullets, and I think that can be a bit dumb if very situational, as well as generally requiring 1 more bullet for any target pretty much, and I think that that's a fair way to go about it, especially with the way that armor currently is, and the way that armor theoretically would be assuming my patch were to go through. And if you've seen my videos in the past, you're also going to recognize this one. The primary fire fall off is going down from 25 to 45 meters, which is significantly stronger than Cassidy's current fall off, to 20 to 35, which aligns more so with where Cassidy currently stands. For reference, this on screen right now, that's 25 meters. And the practice range doesn't even have anywhere you can be 45 meters away, at least measured. Another 2 changes to his gun, this time the secondary fire. The splash healing is going from 50 to 45. I thought about 40 at first, but I think that's a bit too severe. And then the ammo, this is why I thought it was too severe, is going from 13 to 10, back where it used to be. The ammo creep that supports have been receiving in particular is kind of ridiculous, and this is one of the first places I wanted to target with it. The Ana change came after this one, just as a frame of reference, but I think that 13 shots, while good in a brawl, is a bit too much, and, goes to show that I really want to nerf the sustain in the game. Regenerative Burst is also going to see some nerfs. Specifically, that burst healing is going from 40 or 80 for crit to 30 or 60 to crit, while the healing over time is going up by 10 to compensate. If you don't shift heal for crit, this will do the same amount of healing overall, just with less burst, which I think is healthy. Burst heal is extremely good in all cases, and sometimes against DPS passive, this might actually heal more for certain tanks, specifically Reinhardt. There's finally going to be a couple of buffs that I had in mind to fit him a little bit closer into his niche while also affecting his perks, because I am looking at perks in this video. Assault Burst in its current state completely removes Regenerative Burst healing. I don't think I need to tell you, is kind of the main draw of the ability. So instead, we're just going to cut that burst healing in half, and current Overwatch would be 20/40, but in my perspective would be 15/30. This should make the perk a little bit more selectable, although I'm still not sure if it'll compete with the power of Rocket Boots, which is kind of ridiculous. But at the very least, it might give him a little bit of a reason to run it. Ant Matrix plus Assault Burst would kind of go crazy hard, as well as just his straight up healing will go up as well. Another change that I could see going with this is making the reload speed increase by 30% as well. I'm not sure if that's needed, but that's something that we can look at down the road if necessary. And finally, because these are some very heavy nerfs to a character who's not very good in the current meta, I'm going to increase his health from 250 to 275. That might ring some alarm bells for you, but again, I want Baptiste to fit a little bit closer into the Brawl playstyle than he currently does. And he's not going to be affected positively nearly as much as a lot of other supports by the role passive change. So I think that him having some extra survivability, him being a little bit better than a scrap, would be better for him. So nerfing his damage and nerfing his healing means that he could use a little bit of a boost to something for his close range self-defense without making his long range threat too oppressive. And this shouldn't really affect the pokey playstyle of Baptiste too much. Playing with a Sigma, yeah, it'll be nice to not be as threatened by, for example, a Tracer, but I think the Brawl playstyle would much prefer it because Baptiste plays a lot more close to the front line in that style. I brought up earlier that I think main supports are pretty well balanced to the current state and a little bit overshadowed by flex supports a lot of the time. And Brig is a shining example of that. I don't think she needs many changes whatsoever, and I might have even buffed her, all things considered, but I don't quite think I did. In her current state, I feel like the perks are pretty easy to grab. Barrier Restoration is a little bit better, but Morale Boost should generally be taken, which pairs great with Whiplash, so you usually see Whiplash for that extra 50 slam damage on walls. So I want to give a little bit of a boost to Quick Fix, going from 35 bonus health to 45 bonus health, which is huge. But on the other side of things, I also want to nerf existing Repair Pack Burst healing from 25 to 15. So this will make the perk make packs heal the same as the current perk does, but without the perk, you're going to be healing less, which should hopefully make Quick Fist look a little bit more appealing to take. And one more small thing is compensation. Healing over time for Repair Pack is going from 100 to 110, with the new support passive as well as the DPS passive existing the way it does. This might mean Repair Pack gets more healing in the long run, which isn't intentional, but I think that it might be nice. Brig, overall, again, I think is in a fairly well-balanced state. I found a little bit of struggle to find something else to nerf on her, maybe bring her primary fire damage down to 40, but I think she's okay. One character who I think needs severe retooling is Illari. A bit of a piece of shit right now. I'm targeting very specific things with what I buff and nerf about her, and yes, there is going to be buffs here, like there are everywhere. I said before that I'm not trying to give them the same treatment I did as tanks. I'm still going to find ways to make them interesting, and buffs at least provide something interesting. A reduction in overall power budget means that I have room for things like that. For example, her secondary fire healing is going from 115 to 100 flat, as well as the pylon healing going from 40 to 30. Now these sound severe, but one, I want to reduce sustain watch, and two, Illari goes great with my new support passive. The secondary fire is kind of a last resort that you do on people who are already retreated and haven't taken damage in a second. And Pylon is exemplary for keeping people alive who have just retreated. I think Illari is going to get more use out of the support passive that I introduced than anybody else by far. Maybe Zen, maybe Mercy, but she's the real winner there. A couple more things. I'm going to reduce the Pylon cooldown from 7 or 14 seconds to 6 to 12, which should make using Pylon a lot more bearable than it currently is. So if it gets destroyed, for example, by an enemy, it's not as frustrating to wait so long for a new Pylon. If you destroy it yourself, 6 seconds is going to be really quick for redeploy. Plus, with Rapid Reconstruction as a perk, that'll make it so that then a self-destroyed Pylon has a 4.5 second cooldown. You'll be rapid fire putting down new Pylons in new places constantly. I think that kind of flexibility would be very nice while playing Illari. However, I want to touch up Captive Sun a little bit based on how the HP thresholds of Season 9 have affected it and how it has not really changed a ton given those changes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce the minimum splash damage of the Sunstruck from 120 to 100. This is the explosion after it's been connected, by the way, not the initial explosion. And I'm going to up the damage threshold from 90 to 110. And I think that the percentage of HP that needs to be cut out in order to trigger Captive Sun should be about the same as it was in the past. And additionally, if you notice, this should also reduce chain reactions a little bit because the minimum damage is no longer enough to always trigger the Sunstruck animation on another player. So it should make chain reaction Captive Suns a little bit less common, but still plenty feasible. It's only 10 more damage, right? And one more thing, while her perks seem pretty solid to me, all things considered, there's one that needs some tuning in my opinion, that's solar power. wow, this is really good. Having 50% extra secondary fire resource just for hitting shots on the tank, for example, ridiculous. So I'm dropping it from 12.5% per shot with a 50% maximum to 10% and 40% respectively. I'm not even that good at aiming, and I got so much use from it, as you're probably seeing in the footage I recorded for this. The next hero, if you play this character, you're going to be a little bit upset with me. Juno. I'm first things first, nerfing her primary fire damage, going from 7.5 to 2.25 to 7 to 2 per individual bullet, which is, for reference, 90 per burst to 84 per burst, ignoring damage fall off. Her ability to defend herself has kind of been lapped by her ability to kill people, I think, and I want to reduce that a little bit. And in no small part, this is because of the power fantasy that I think people play Juno for. Right? She is meant to be an innocent character, very, very pure of heart, and yet she's one of the deadliest supports in the game. I think that kind of goes against the power fantasy, and I want to move her more in that direction. Torpedoes are going to get a hit for a very similar reason. Laurie's. A little too good at chasing down kills and a little bit too good at massive amounts of healing all at the same time. So those 85 numbers that we've gotten so used to, they're both going down to 60. Still a nice chunk of damage, still a nice chunk of healing, but nowhere near as strong as it currently is. And yeah, the hits keep on hitting here. The glide boost duration is going down from 4 to 3 seconds. Orbital raise healing is going from 85 to 60. Yeah, I'm just absolutely butchering this character and nobody can stop me. But there's a catch here. I am giving some compensation buffs. Her healing and damage are going way down, so naturally her ult cost is going down a little bit. 3135 points down to 2950. Hang on, I feel like I've mentioned a couple times on my channel points when it comes to ultimates, so let me give a quick rundown. So for example, if an ultimate costs 2,000 points, you need a combination of 2,000 healing and damage in order to charge up that ultimate. With the slight exception that you also gain, I think it's about 5 ult charge per second. Not 5%, but 5 points. So basically, technically, you could always know exactly how much ult charge the other team has based on these numbers. But anyways, getting back into it, a little bit less than a 10% reduction, which I think is fair. And also I'm going to touch up her perks as well, which seem very, very skewed at the way they currently are. So the first thing I want to touch up is Hyper Boost. Rather than just applying the boost while you pass through the ring, it will also apply when you cast the ring, which already anyways gives you a speed boost, so it should just feel a little bit more intuitive. This perk ended up being better than I thought it was when I was testing it here, but it's still fairly underwhelming, so I think it kind of needs this. And one last small, kind of a trade-off. Reboots are no longer going to increase the duration of glide boost, but now increase the speed of glide boost. The movement speed boost from glide boosts themselves with this perk will go up from 50% to 75%. Those 3 seconds of mobility are going to be stronger mobility rather than just longer mobility. A lot of mobility buffs for Juno means that she's going to be able to weave in and out of combat a lot more and be pretty annoying to catch and kill. But I think it's overall a fair trade-off, especially with the nerfs that I gave her to where her numbers are very, very hard nerfed. In particular, I'm trying to drop the value that she gets without dropping the availability to her value. I want torpedoes worse, I want her gun worse, I want her ult worse, but I don't want them to never come up anymore. One place, I'm sure you've heard this concept a lot, is Spylo, who didn't necessarily change my mind into this belief, but really solidified that I think that this is the correct way to do balancing. One more small change that I'm doing in post here after everything else, I had this originally, removed it because I thought that it was too much for Juno. I was really trying to cut down the script as much as possible, but I'm putting it back in. The time for lock-on is going down with torpedoes in order to make it more usable and more accessible, while also I'm going to have the cooldown if you fail to cast unless you're stunned. That will now be halved. So let's say you cancel it or you press left click when nobody's in your LOS, like somebody just barely walks out as you press left click, which happened a fair bit to me and has happened a fair bit to me over my entire time playing Juno. You're not going to be punished nearly as hard. And if you thought that I was harsh on Alari or Juno, just you wait. If you have kept track, you know that this is alphabetical order. Yeah, sorry Kiriko mains.
Fall.
I've complained about this character incessantly in the past, and she is not getting away from me now. Finally, I have a chance to really butcher this character, and I'm not wasting that chance. Wall climb move speed going down from 8.5 meters per second to 6.5 meters per second, going from the fastest wall climb to the second slowest. A food of healing is going from 13 to 11 with a faster reload time granted, but she's going to have lower healing output overall. The kunai's crit multiplier is going up from 2 times to 2.5 times, but the damage is going down from 60 to 48. That way then body shots are less rewarding again, while headshots remain exactly the same. Kiriko should not be rewarded for mindlessly spamming body shots. I'm going to make a video on how I would address something like that in the future, so keep that in mind. Maybe you know, like and subscribe if you want to see that video. Swift Step is going to have its range reduced from 35 to 28 meters. The healing from Suzu is going down from 80 or 110 to 40 or 65, and no longer will it allow you to walk through people and be immune to booping. After all these healing nerfs, sure, I'll drop the cost of Kitsune Rush from 2525 to 2400, but I'm also going to make the cooldown reduction from 2 times to 1.5 times, so your cooldowns aren't coming back as fast. And finally, I think visual clarity is very important. Right now, the Kitsune Rush starts fading after the effects are gone. I'm going to make it so that then the duration is extended until the Kitsune Rush is completely gone visually, which should only be another half a second realistically. Oh, did I say finally? Because I'm a fucking liar. We're also going to make it so the shuffling perk also extends Swift Step cooldown by 4 seconds, so there's some risk attached to it. Alright. Yeah, I don't like Kiriko if you haven't been able to tell. I think that a support character with some of the best spam in the game, higher DPS than, for example, Cassidy when factoring in reloads, mobility that allows her to escape from any angle that she starts in, and some of the best burst healing in the game, as well as some of the best cooldowns and ultimates in the game. I think this character needs some big old nerfs, and that's why I really did this. Flank Kiriko as well as double flex support should be much weaker with these changes, while playing a more standard support of Kiriko, as well as just a simple off-angle Kiriko, shouldn't be too changed.
I blame you for this! Now die!
The more healthy ways to play Kiriko should still be intact, but the more toxic ways people play Kiri, which is what I'm really targeting, they're going to be shut out significantly. Oh, not just the damage is going down, by the way, for the kunais, also the ammo, from 15 to 12. Despite what you might think at this point, no, I'm not just doing this because I hate Kiriko. No, I'm not just doing this despite Kiriko players. I do ultimately want what's best for the character, and this is how I think it can be done. Despite how much I had for Juno, despite how much I had for Kiriko, this might actually be my longest set of changes. So buckle in. We've got a lot to talk about for Lifeweaver. Before I talk about him, my goals for this character are going to be making him less reliant on sitting back as far away as possible and running away, to make him more incentivized to play closer with his team and use his abilities more supportively for his team rather than selfishly to get himself out of scary situations. My other goal is to make it so that if you catch a Lifeweaver, they are actually under threat and can't just use all of their mobility cooldowns, including pedal platform, to get away. One thing I want to do to make him feel a little bit more fluid to play is drop the maximum healing per healing blossom from 80 to 65, but then the duration of each heal is going to go from 0.3 seconds to 0.2 seconds. And making the charge time a little bit faster as well. This should make each healing blossom feel faster and more consistent, but shouldn't be so massively impactful. It shouldn't be so swingy per healing blossom. And to make sure that he's not healing too often, I'm also going to drop that ammo from 16 to 12. Yet again, I'm targeting the supports having too much ammo. This is a common theme throughout this whole video. This is Exhibit D by now. My next changes here are going to sound crazy, but hear me out. Pedal platform will now have a maximum duration of infinity. It will never break if somebody else doesn't break it or if you don't break it. No more duration. This thing is going to be as flexible as possible. As a trade-off, it's going to have its health dropped by a third, 300 to 200, and no longer will it block cleave damage, such as Fire Strike, Ramashra Pummel, Winston Left Click, etc. This will make it so that then people can use pedal more reliably, and Lifeweaver himself can even use this pedal more, but if he's caught, he can't use it as a shield to block incoming damage and to infinitely sustain himself. I'm just touching up everything at this point. Rejuvenating dash healing is going to go up a tiny bit from 45 to 50. It is a big trade-off. The cooldown is going up from 5 to 7 seconds. I know that in the past I've said that I want cooldowns to have a shorter cooldown with lower impact, but this is an exception. I think that a support with 275 HP and self-sustain and this much mobility should have a reduction in that mobility somewhere, and I think the best way to target that is the dash cooldown. His dash is very annoying to deal with as, say, a Tracer or a Winston, where you can get just a little bit out of your reach after committing all the way into the backline for him. A 7-second cooldown should make it much more bearable to get repeat value against him. And one more change to his base kit, this will be just for that visual clarity, for the intuitiveness of it all. Life Grip in its current state, the bubble doesn't really appear for like a split second. I want it to instantly appear, more akin to a Zarya bubble, or for example, a barrier. Maybe not literally instantly, because that could be a little bit difficult to program and make look good, but as fast as possible so that then you're not shooting somebody and then you can still clearly see all of them, but they just stop taking damage. The goal of this is to make them feel a little bit less frustrating to play against, so you can actually react and respond appropriately to a life grip within that allotted time frame. Not significant, but an extra 0.2 seconds is always nice. And while I'm at it, I originally thought about reducing its maximum range so that it has to. I also thought about reducing his maximum range for life grip from 30 to 25 meters, as well as thinking about reducing his healing blossom range the same way, 30 to 25. I think that would be good to make him a little bit more incentivized to be close to his team. I'm not sure how it would work out though. If you have any thoughts, let me know. I think that it's a bit of a risky move and I'm not sure how fun it would be. A few other things. This is just for perks at this point moving forward. Alright, why did we bring back the seed? It's gone now. Life Cycle is no longer going to have that stupid seed that he had it on release and it makes no sense. It's gone. Instead, whenever you heal an ally with your Healing Blossom, allies within 5 meters of you or the target will get a little bit of that healing to them as well. This will make him a little bit stronger in brawlier compositions, which I think is a healthy place for him to be, as well as supporting a dive a little bit stronger. Right? If a Tracer and a Doomfist go on a specific target, for example, you'll be able to heal both at once. You target the Doom, you give Tracer an extra 13-15 HP. My current thought is a 20% increase without letting it stack, but this is a bit of a fluid number that I'm okay with changing up a little bit. And of course, it would not apply to Lifeweaver himself. He's not going to get more self-sustain. Another one to worry about is Life Weaving, which feels a little bit underwhelming in my opinion. I'm going to make its duration infinite as well. A lot of duration things for Lifeweaver have been changing, and I think this is another one to look at. But again, it won't stack. So you can have up to 95 healing per Healing Blossom, but if you're dashing out a spawn, for example, your first Healing Blossom in the fight will have increased healing. Finally, because I think both of Lifeweaver's tier 3 perks are a bit underwhelming, I'm also going to touch up Super Bloom. I'm going to drop the damage from 40 to 30, but reduce significantly the number of thorns required to trigger it from 20 to 14. This should make it more consistently triggerable, right? Something that you can actually consistently do, where for a frame of reference, you need 1 T in 2.5 seconds, where you shoot 11 per second, so you can only miss like a quarter of your thorns in order to trigger it right now. This should make it a lot more easy to trigger. Lifeweaver is a character who is somehow I feel really close to being meta relevant, but still so far away, and I'm hoping that these changes will allow him to fit into a niche a little bit better, where I don't feel like he does right now. The next hero, again, main supports I think are just in a really good spot with 1 or 2 exceptions. Lucio is getting some touch-ups, but mostly just 2 underwhelming perks. Yeah, the boop is doing too much damage. It's going from 45 to 40. I don't like how much damage it's doing right now, and I think just a small nerf is warranted here. 35 might be a bit low. Somewhere around 35 to 40 I think is for the best. As for his perks, level 1 perks, you always take base blowout. You're never going to be on a wall for more than a second, especially not when you would need to reload. So base blowout is going from a 15% increase to a 12% increase. I originally had 10, somewhere 10 to 12% is a good place to be, I think. Rather than regenerating 4 ammo per second on a wall, now each time you touch a wall, you'll gain 2 ammo. This should make the choice for your level 1 perk a lot more interesting. Both are aggressive perks, and I do like that, but now there's actually some competition here. Finally, I think Noise Violation is really well designed right now. It's got some weaknesses actually, because the enemy team can actually see when you amp and track it a little bit more easy, which isn't even listed in the stats. I think that could be added, but that's a small thing. Bigger deal though, Acceleron. It's getting a bit of a retooling. Instead of giving only himself a 50% fire rate increase, It'll now give himself, as well as every nearby ally, a 25% attack speed increase. I'm not attached to this change by any means, don't get me wrong, and I think that it would fit closer into the dichotomy that a lot of these have, where I feel like you generally see two perks designed to combo together, such as Brig having two whipshot perks. Grooven with Accelerando should actually be really, really good, and Noise Violation Base Blowout is already what Lucio's tend to run, so I think that this would make him a combo a little bit better with other perks, and I think it would make the perk conversation a little bit more interesting. Might be overpowered though, 20%, 15%, I'm also okay with. If there's anything else you should know about me, lean in, let me tell you something. I hate Mercy. And so, rather than just healing to heal for herself, Sympathetic Recovery is getting a retooling. All of the damage you boost with your secondary fire is going to be returned to you as healing. Instead of healing for healing dealt with Sympathetic Recovery, now it's going to be Empathetic Recovery. All the damage you boost on an ally gets returned to you as healing. That way then you have to make a choice. If you're getting Dove, you have to either heal your target or damage boost to keep yourself alive. Or even go back and forth for a little bit more flexibility and kind of make something work there. And yeah, we're going to target Sustain Watch a little bit more here again. You haven't heard it in a while, thanks to Lucio. Your healing is going to go down 60 to 55. Valkyrie as well, dropping 5 healing per second from 65 to 60. The damage boost is going to go from 30% to 25%. This compensation, though, will give them something. The maximum range to attach to a teammate is going from 15 to 18 meters, which will allow you to reach players across chokes, across gaps that you otherwise wouldn't be able to get to without investing Guardian Angel. But that doesn't mean Guardian Angel is going to be a free cooldown now, because the cooldown is going up from 1.5 to 2 seconds, and the recast bonus cooldown, or I guess extension, is going up from 1 to 1.5 seconds. So if you pop with Guardian Angel and stop with it, it'll simply be a 2-second cooldown. It's a very good cooldown to only be 2 seconds. But if you go for any of your funny shenanigan bullshit, where you crouch or you go backwards or anything like that, it's now a 3.5-second cooldown. Yes, Mercy is already really bad for high-ranked players, but that's the thing. She should be bad for high ranks. She's a noob character, and I think noob characters should be balanced around the noobs. That might sound toxic and rude and a little fucked up, but in reality, I don't want low-ranked players to feel like they're cheated out of wins because they're playing against a character who is objectively easier than the ones who they probably find more fun. Mercy doesn't have a lot of skill expression. A lot of the other supports do. So when you're taking a player who's trying to learn the game and putting them up against a Mercy player, the Mercy player is just more likely to win. Yes, I know I sound like an asshole, but at the same time, this character really just doesn't have a right to be meta-prevalent for anybody past Plat. Maybe Diamond? And while I hate to remove skillful tech, sometimes it's gotta go when it's very annoying. And if you know me, you know I'm talking about Resurrection. Now, Resurrect will break if you break LOS from your target for a combined half-second threat duration. This should prevent Mercies from initiating a res and then going behind a wall. There should be a lot more risk behind res, but you should still have a little bit of time to work around and wiggle through to block yourself off. I got a little bit of a buff for you though, Mercy players, don't feel all bad. Chain Boost, after playing Mercy with this perk, it's actually really good, but it's got a few holes in it. It's going to link to a nearby ally, regardless of if you're damage boosting or healing. So you got 2 players who you're going to be healing or damage boosting at a time. But the second beam will have its effectiveness reduced by half. This should be a little bit better for flexibility, but a little bit worse for downright numbers. And because this perk literally has 0 effect during Valk, I'm going to make the secondary beams have a little bit more range in Valk. Remember, the regular staff had its range increased from 15 to 18, so this is going up from 10 to 12 meters for the bonus beams. That way then this perk actually has something to do if you're ulting. All of our other perks though I think are really fine right now. Angelic Recovery lets her kind of heal off damage when she's pocketing somebody who's a little bit further away, and Winged Reach is just a very solid perk. Fun fact, did you know that all but one support has their name start with a letter in the first half of the alphabet? This is how I decide that I think we should rename Moira to Odiran, for her last name. And you know what? While we're at it, rename Leifweaver to Naran for his first name. And I don't know, Alari can be Sun Lady.
Be not afraid.
Moira is the exact same case as Mercy in my mind, where she's a low elo character, a noob character. It's way too much reward at higher ranks. I am saying that because I've started playing Moira in my ranked games, and wow, this character is so dumb. I played it on Circuit Royale and kind of carried. Not because I'm good, but because she's dumb. And I think too dumb, and I think she needs some tweaking. How am I going to tweak her? At first I thought of increasing her full hitbox by 5%, but I think that would be a little bit too much and make her a little bit too easy to hit. First off, I'm just going to increase her headshot hitbox by 5%, which should make her easier to headshot and easier to hit at close range as well, which is where Moira players tend to thrive because they could just get in somebody's face and circle around them and impossible to hit a lot of the time, especially for mouse and keyboard. And I want to really reduce the impact that she has on going for solo flanks and being a massive nuisance. For the first time this video since Ana, I'm going to bring up a change for specifically 6v6. Her left click is going to have reduced healing in that mode from 70 to 65. I've heard that she's very good in 6v6 and kind of a nightmare, and that makes sense. Moira's massive amounts of healing works better with 2 tanks than 1, so reducing that insane amount of healing should still give her a niche in the mode, but shouldn't make her overtuned. Additionally, I'm going to reduce her lingering healing from 51 to 39, a drop of 4 health per second. Shouldn't be huge, but again, we're targeting sustain watch a little bit here, and this is another way I want to do it. I thought about reducing her straight up primary fire healing in 5v5 as well, but you're not getting the same kind of cleave healing as you are in 6v6, so I decided against it. And now for some bigger nerfs. The Suck is going to have half the healing it currently does, from 30 to 15, and a slight dip in damage from 65 per second to 60 per second. This should make it so that then she's easier to deal with if she's initiating the engage on you, but it should keep her self-defense overall intact. If she, say, uses a fade to get into the back line and start harassing people, they can actually chase her down and deal with her solo a lot more effectively. But if a Genji or Tracer's diving her, she should still have the necessary resources to keep herself alive. That ideally shouldn't be nerfed too hard. Doesn't mean I'm leaving Fade as it is, though. This is the real problem with Moira, and I am not going to allow her to keep running around flanking and dueling people as she so pleases. I wanted to stay full invincibility, I wanted to stay mobility, but the duration's got to go down a little bit. 3/4 of a second, a little bit over, to 0.6 seconds. This will make it so that then Fade is still good, but lacks a lot of that true self-preservation that it currently has. Additionally, I think it'd be nice if she got something like what Scarlet Witch has in Marvel Rivals, where you can see a little bit of her as she's using the Fade. That way then she's not just completely untrackable sometimes if a good Moira fades. But I think that might be a little bit too contradictory with the design of the ability, so I'm okay with leaving that out. Another couple of changes to target her ability to kind of solo dual DPS. Viatic Orb damage is going down from 50 to 40 per second, and the healing, targeting sustain watch as well, going from 65 to 55 per second. You should make her a little bit easier to deal with if she's solo, again, trying to kill you, but they're still good tools if she's needing to fend off a dive and has somebody peeling for her. It's just less solo self-defense than she currently has. That's going to be all for her base kit, though. I'm not going to touch Coalescence, even though I think that being able to use Fade in Coalescence is still a little bit dumb. But I've got a lot of changes I want to do with the perks, starting with Vanish. The current way Vanish works is the duration of Fade is half a second longer, which puts it to 1.25 seconds. This is going to go down a tiny bit. It's going from half a second to 0.4 bonus second. This now brings the total duration of Fade up to exactly 1 second. Fade will be a good cooldown for self-sustain and survivability, but it's no longer going to be a solo carry, allow you to flank, uplift her design from okay with good survivability to bonkers beyond belief. And additionally, so that then this actually has a bit of a trade-off rather than just being a strict buff, the jump distance you get with Fade is going to be reduced to a standard jump with Vanish. You're not going to be able to get the same vertical mobility, but you will get a lot more horizontal mobility. The perk is a trade-off now. How a lot of good perks should be designed. But I'm going to kind of break that rule immediately because I think Uprush has the potential to be a lot cooler. The way I'm going to do this is give her freeform 3-dimensional movement during Fade. This will massively increase her skill cap with the ability, while still kind of making her annoying, and will kind of bring back a little bit of that nuisance factor that I've been trying to remove. But it's going to be much harder than the current way that Moira has to do it. So I think that it'll be okay for lower ranked players to deal with Uprush. but higher ranked players will really be able to take advantage of it and make the ability look good. Again, I want Moira to be nerfed for the low ranks, and if I can find a way to make her good for higher ranks without making her annoying for the low ranks, I will always try to take that opportunity. Both her tier 3 perks are getting a bit of a tune that I think will make them a little bit more interesting. They are going to now slightly follow the first person they find. So if you pop a heal orb on your tank, they'll get that 50 healing, and then the orb will kind of bend around a little bit to follow them. It won't just stick to them like a Zen orb, but it will follow them that tiny little bit extra. You won't be able to get the same kind of geometry, trigonometry BS that you currently can with Moira. Now you actually kind of have to aim a little bit, and I think that it really makes the orbs more interesting to play with this as an idea. The amount that it follows the target is up for debate. Ultimately, I would rework Moira if I could. I have a D.Va rework video on my channel already that, kind of is me dipping my toes into the idea of reworking heroes, and I think that Moira's might be the next one I do, honestly. If not her, Roadhog or Mauga are next up to the plate a little bit. We're at the end of the line, and if you've noticed, I've kind of nerfed all supports at this point, with a minor exception being Brig and maybe Lucio, but now we're finally at the support who I really wanted to give some love to. Ascendance is no longer just going to be him floating around slightly hovering into the air. I'm going to increase the horizontal move speed while using Ascendance by 15%. I thought originally about giving it a little bit more verticality, but I think that might be too much for Zen. So making him move just that little bit faster should allow him to strafe shots, return to the front line, give the ability a little bit more flexibility, give the perk more usage. I feel right now you should always be buffing Snap Kick. This kind of does the same thing where both tier 1 perks are about survivability to a certain extent. Do you want that burst of survivability, or do you want a little bit more risk with more reward in other areas? I think you always take Focus Destruction right now because Duality isn't stellar. I thought about a lot of ways to rework this Duality. Make it so then all discorded damage gets added as healing. That would be ridiculously good. Another thought I had was making it so anybody who shot the discorded target would have a little bit of vampirism, but I think that's also too much. Ultimately, this is what I came up with. Increase the healing from Duality from 20 to 30%, reduce the cooldown of Discord when you grab Duality from 7 to 5 seconds. That way then, Duality can be a little bit more flexible, because what I noticed right now, Duality is just not very flexible. If you Discord somebody, you might get 1 or 2 shots off, which is a nice little 20, 15, 10 healing at times. But with this, you should ideally be able to get a little bit more healing more consistently, and honestly, this might be the main reason that you take the perk at this point, just a better Discord. And finally, I want stack tracking. This is something that I haven't mentioned at any other point in this video, but I think that more stats can fit. For example, Ana's unscoped accuracy could absolutely be put into that stat tracker. There's so much space for it on the right side of your screen. And Duality should absolutely also be one of those things that are tracked. Put it at the bottom right of the stats. I want to know how much value I'm getting out of Duality, because right now, I don't even know if these buffs are necessary. It just feels underwhelming because I don't know if it's doing anything. If you've seen my other balanced discussion videos, you'll know that this is a lot longer than they usually are. I've been very nervous to make this video for a long time. I've been wanting to do it since that first video. I don't know how far into editing I'm going to go, how long this is going to take me, but I'm recording this at the very tail end of March. This might take me until like May to finish. I hate to be like a YouTuber-y person. If you enjoyed, like and subscribe, numbers go up, video do better. I've been very satisfied, genuinely I have, with how my videos have been doing lately. I've been doing a lot lower effort stuff recently. I like doing the easy stuff because I think that it's fun and I can be really creative with it. And these kinds of videos I also do like making, so do expect to see a consistent stream of both of those things. I'm also a basic caster. If you didn't know, I cast the Overwatch Masters a lot of the time for NA and EMEA, so I guess I'm officially a tier 2 Overwatch caster. So if you want to see me do that type of thing, go over to Twitch. It's the same name, Time Monster. Also expect to see some more Overwatch Championship Series content. I do have a couple of things planned for that. And thank you all for watching. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you for the support that I've gotten for the past couple years now. It's been more than 2 years I've been doing YouTube. Thank you.